Thank Hashem that we're able to learn. Because of our learning, we should have the basic Mikdash immediately. Today we'll start Tzadik Zayin Amud Aleph. On the bottom, 97a. It says, it's a quote from the Mishnah, 6 lines from the bottom. Rabbi Yehuda Eiser Banusasav of Chulu. Rabbi Yehuda says that a person is not allowed to marry a woman that his father had lived with, even if it wasn't marriage. He's not allowed to marry her. That's a prohibition on him. Assuming that it's known that his father had lived with this woman. Otherwise, how would he know? Right? Good morning. So the Gemara says, I'm Rabbi Gidl Amarav, my time with Rabbi Yehuda. Where does Rabbi Yehuda get this from? Pasuk says you're not allowed to marry the father's wife, even if the father passed away or divorced her. He's not allowed to marry her. She's prohibited forever. So the Ksiv, he quotes the Pasuk. The Pasuk says, person cannot marry the wife of his father, but then it adds in that he can't uncover the clothing of his father, which means knaf shira aviv layigala. The clothing of his father he can't uncover. What's the clothing of his father? That means any woman that his father had lived with, he cannot uncover her nakedness. Now that means for sure an ex-wife. When Rabbi Yehuda is adding in, is that even if it wasn't a wife, even if it was just someone that the father had relations with, rape or whatever it was. Gemara says, how do you know that that's talking about a woman that he wasn't married to? Maybe that's just his wife. The Gemara answers, because the pasuk before that actually says, directly before that, it says, says that the man has to give to the father of the girl that he had laid with, that he had raped. 50 coins, that's the punishment. He has to pay a certain fine. If he rapes a girl, he has to pay the father. So, you see, it's a continuation of that pasuk. It's called smichas. Gemara ignores that there's a machlekes if darshin and smuchim. Do you learn because one pasuk is next to another? The reason why the Gemara ignores that is, I assume, because it's in Sefer Dvarim. And in Sefer Dvarim, everyone is dair smuchim. That's probably what the Gemara is doing. There's machlekes about that. In Sefer Dvarim, there's a superiority to the order of the psukim. And we darshan, everyone agrees that darshin and smuchim in Sefer Dvarim. I forget where we had this. Maybe at the beginning of this Masechta. That darshin and smuchim in Sefer. No, we had it some other place. Yeah, that in Dvarim.
Just a quick question: how do we know Shalei Ganei Knaf Aviv is referring to a wife, whatever? How do we know it was just not the father's nakedness?
Oh, yeah. I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that. I'm assuming that was a term that meant the wife. La yigala knaf shara. Yeah, I don't know. Knaf of it. You're saying that it would mean like a homosexual relationship. I don't know the answer. Yeah. I can start guessing that maybe we don't need a pasuk for that because we already have other, but I didn't see it clearly. Okay. So, the Rabbanan, what do the Rabbanan do? The Rabbanan, they don't say that there's a prohibition on a woman that the father had lived with that the son cannot marry. According to the Rabbanan, he's allowed to marry. It's mamish mutter. So, the Rabbanan say, you know what? If it would have been directly connected, one pasuk after the other, then kedat kamret, then I would agree with you. But hashta delay samachle, but here it's not perfectly connected. Why? It is one pasuk after another. It is perfectly connected. But it says, layikach ishes eses aviv v'layigala knaf aviv. In between layigala knaf aviv and the preceding pasuk, is the in between that is la yikach ishes aviv, which is referring to the wife. So it mentions the wife in between. So probably what's afterwards is not really going back on. It's not jumping over the wife. It's the pasuk before is talking about rape. Then it says can't marry the father's wife. Then according to Rabbi, it says can't marry the girl that the father raped. So the Rabbanan say that there's a problem there. It doesn't match perfectly. Would have said le'yigala kanaf of first. That would have been directly connected to the girl that the father raped. So hashta the leisamachle, that's not connected to it. It's not directly juxtaposed. Mi baile lekid Ravanan. We need it for Ravanan says the Ravanan Amar Shmuel b'shimeres yavam shalava v'akasim medaber. It's actually talking about a woman that's waiting for the father to do yibaman. So it's really talking about her uncle's wife, father's brother's wife. This boy cannot marry his father's brother's wife, waiting for the father to do yibam. My kanaf aviv. So what does it mean? The cloth of the father. Kanaf haroyel aviv. It's the cloth that's roy, that's fitting, that's waiting to be for the father. That woman is not allowed to marry. Yeah. First of all, there's another problem. We're going to get to the no one in a second. But first of all, there's a problem for him. It's his aunt. It's his uncle's wife. He's not allowed to marry his uncle's wife. An uncle can marry his niece, but he can't marry his aunt. So it says lav or lav b'shnei lav. Well, it's coming to give me two prohibitions for this woman, for this union. But no one's allowed to marry her. Well, okay, lav or lav b'shleisha lavin. We actually want to have three prohibitions here. I don't know why sometimes the Gemara says that this has a question like right here, and then it gives me the answer, which doesn't answer the question. It just sort of repeats the question in a definitive way, so it makes me feel like there's no question. But the question is, so why do I need to lavin? I mean, ask the question again, right? I don't know. So viba yisei malach hamisa. We do have a pshat. We could say that it's referring to that the father passed away, and he's still not allowed to marry her. And it's considered, there's no problem of Yivam Lashuk because there's no one there to do Yibam. So, but it still is two prohibitions, that it's his aunt, and it's the father's Shemeres Yavam, which we're learning from Kanaf Aviv. It makes a second prohibition. It's the father's, it was fit for the father to marry.
Right, the father dies.
The father died, but the prohibition still remains.
No one can marry her?
No, not no one, just this
man,
this son
young.
cannot marry her.
Or anybody in the shuk can marry her.
Right. Okay. We're on top of page 97, 97b. Yeah, this is a very interesting Gemara. What's coming up?
Well, I'm looking over here.
This is
boy.
yeah. It's not actually hard. It's like coming out of like some wild, yeah. Get ready. Okay. Yeah. There's a machlekes if darshin and smuchim, smichas tekra, and yeah, and there's probably a machlekes there. That in the Gemara, there's probably a machlekes. Yeah, because it would say, what do you do? The mandamar, the late darshin and smuchim. Right. That's the Gemara over there. You learn the first one from the lower one, the higher parsha from the lower parsha. I don't know if that's because of smichas. I'm not sure if that's the same thing, but I have to look into that.
On the last thing, the son can't marry the aunt. Okay. But if he has a brother, but by a different father, would that brother be exempt from all those prohibitions? And that be like someone from the shoot?
Brother from a different father, but from the same mother.
Yeah.
And this woman is not related to. That would be not related to this woman
At all.
Yeah.
But if it's brother by the same father, then
That's the
it's same
problem.
deal.
Okay. What we're about to see is some riddles. Ach me'av v'lei me'em. There's a half brother. V'hu baila de'em, which is the mother, which is the husband. There's a paternal brother, which is the husband of the mother.
Oh,
Bana brati didn't say, and I'm the daughter of that woman.
you can't have that.
So how's that possible? Amar Rami Bar Chama, like Rabbi Yehuda the Masnisin, it could fit, but it can't fit according to Rabbi Yehuda. Why? What happened over here is like this. Yaakov has a son, Reuven. Let's give this example. Now, Yaakov is obviously not the patriarch Yaakov, it's just a random name. And there's a woman that Yaakov had lived with, but not married. Well, Reuven goes ahead and marries that woman and has a daughter. So this daughter is now saying that Reuven I'm sorry.
Is her name?
No, I got to do it differently. Yaakov lives with a woman, not through marriage, and has a daughter. But he also has a son, Reuven, from someone else, a different woman. But Reuven goes ahead and marries this woman, not the daughter, the mother, the woman that the Yaakov had lived with. So now this daughter is now speaking, and she's saying that Reuven is my half brother because we share the same father. He also married my mother. So her half brother had married her mother. That's what he's saying. Now, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's prohibited, but according to other opinions in the Mishnah, that's permissible for a son to marry a woman that the father had lived with. Okay, the second case. Achu, this is my brother. Ubrihu, he's also my son. Achdeana, I'm a sister. The Haidadarina Kaspai, to the one that I am carrying on my shoulder, which means her son. Yeah, this is a dramatic way of saying it. It's a simple case. But Mishkachasla, Baivid Kechav Mabal Bite. What happens over here? There's a father, he has a daughter, and he lives with the daughter. And he lives with his daughter, and he has a child, a son. So now the daughter speaks, and she says that this boy that she's carrying on her shoulder is her brother, because they share the same father. Okay. Case number 3. Shlom alach bri, like peace unto you, child. It's getting ready for some complicated. Like, good on you, mate. Okay. Bat achtechana. You are. Oh, I am the daughter of Achtech, your sister. I'm the daughter of your sister. Okay, how could that work? So that would be mishkachas la ba'ibit kacham al bal bas bitay. Okay, this is talking about a non-Jew. The reason why we switched to non-Jews is because this is prohibited relations, so we didn't want to make the scenario with the Jewish people. So you have someone that has a daughter, okay, that's fine, and then he has a granddaughter, okay, all of that is fine. But then he goes ahead and he lives with his granddaughter. So the granddaughter, and they has a son. He has a son from that relation. So now the granddaughter speaks and says that my son I am your sister's daughter. Remember that this is the father had a daughter who had a daughter who became the mother of this child through the grandfather. So the first daughter, which is the grandmother of the child, is also the mother's, not the mother's sister, but it's the child's sister. It's the great grandson's sister because they share the same father. There's one father that had the mother's mother, and that also had this child. Okay. Daloi didalu davla. I don't know why it has to say this. This is talking about daloi didalu davlas, people that are water carriers. Lipla b'chu seiser peser. Here's a cryptic riddle for you. The Haida Darina, this person that I'm carrying, Hubar, is a son. Bana Bras Achva, and I am the daughter of the sister. How does that work? So Mishkach Bas Benai. But Bras Achva, the daughter of the brother. I'm the daughter of the brother. Okay, so this is okay as well. This is exactly the same case, except that there's the father, instead of having a daughter and then a daughter, and then a granddaughter, has a son and then a granddaughter. And the father lives, which is the grandfather, lives with his granddaughter, and they have a son. And so the mother says that I'm your mother, and also my mother is your sister. Okay. I'm the daughter of your brother. I'm the daughter of your brother. I'm the daughter of your brother. That's what he said, not sister. I'm the daughter of your brother. Okay. Baya baya. This is our fifth riddle here. That means baya is like whoa. Vaya. Whoa. Me'ach v'hu av. From the brother, which is also a father. V'hu bal, which is also a husband. V'hu bar bal, and he's the son of a husband. V'hu baila deim, and he's the husband of the mother. Bana bratze ditze, and I am the daughter of the wife. And he doesn't give bread to my children, the sons of his daughter. Okay. Mishkachasla, what's this case? Okay, the way you have to do this is that there's a couple, a husband and wife, they have a son. Now the son lives with the mother and they have a daughter. Okay, that's what happened. They have a daughter. Now, they have a daughter. Then that son that had lived with his mother, he's a bad guy. He now lives with his daughter. Okay. But this doesn't come. This doesn't come from nowhere. Now this boy's father, the bad guy, his father, that was just a regular couple so far, now comes and lives with his wife's daughter and his son's daughter, that girl, and he has children with this girl. So the comment is, who's making this comment? Is this girl that's has a lot of problems. She needs a therapist. Doesn't know who she is. She says like this. She says, woe to my brother, who is also my father. I am the daughter.
She's my husband. No?
I'm sorry. My daughter, who is my husband, who's the son of my husband, who's the husband of my mother, and I am the daughter of his wife. And this fellow doesn't give bread to my children, who are the children of his sister. Yeah, it dramatizes the last part where they're just not giving bread. That wasn't like really part of it. It's just like he should be supporting me or something. Okay, next case. This is the sixth case. Ana va'at achi. You and I are brothers.
Yeah.
Is that what you have? No, that's the seventh case. Go back one more. Go back one case. The sixth case is you and I are brothers. Ana va'avuchavi. I and your father are brothers. Ana v'imachachi. I and your mother are brother sister. How does that work? Mishkachos labayvid kechavim habal imay. This is talking about a non-Jew that lives with his mother. V'hilid mimenu shtei banas, and has two daughters from that union. V'chazer ba'al achas mem. Then he lives with one of those daughters. V'hilid mimenu ben, and he has a son. V'karyalei achte de'imay. How do they translate? V'karyalei. He's calling him V'karyalei achte de'imay, and the mother's sister is the one. V'karmelei hachia is saying this. Okay, so what would happen here is that a son lives with his mother and has two daughters. The son marries one of the daughters and has a son. Now, the sister of the daughter, which is the son's aunt, sort of aunt, says to this child, he says, I'm your brother. No, why is he your brother? Why is she the brother? Because they share the same mother. How is he the brother? Is she saying, I am your brother? Is she saying it to the child? Or is she saying it to the brother? No, she's saying it to, how is she the brother? They don't share the same father. They do share the same father. That's what happens. They share the same father. Because this fellow lives with his mother. He has two daughters. So the woman is the mother. The mother had this girl's father is also her brother. And because it's the father, when this fellow has the child, so now the sister, it's brother and sister. This one man has these two daughters plus this child from one of the daughters. So this man is the father. So the aunt is the brother. He says, I'm also your uncle, because we have a because my sister is your mother, and also I'm also your uncle, because my brother, sharing the same mother, is your father. So I'm your uncle from both sides. Okay. So case number 7. Ana va'at b'nei achi. You and I are cousins. B'nei achi, son of my brother. You and I are cousins. Ana va'avuch b'nei achi, but you and I is first cousin once removed. Ana v'imach b'nei achi, you and your mother. I and your mother are cousins. The Gemara says, well, this is not so complicated. It's complicated, but it's not a prohibition. Why? Because this could be permissible. This is the whole Yevamos. We had this. Reuven has two daughters, Vasa Shimon, Vasa Chadaminayo, and Shimon marries one of them. He's allowed to marry his niece. That's no problem. He marries one of Reuven's daughters. But Asa bar Levi, Benasa Chadaminayo. Now, instead, not Levi marrying the other daughter, who's the other brother. So there's just three brothers here: Reuven, Shimon, Levi. Reuven has two daughters. Well, one of them marries Shimon. The other one doesn't marry Levi, but marries Levi's son. Okay, so that's okay. So that's a cousin, married a cousin. But Carmele braid the Shimon, Labar braid the Levi. Now, when they have children, so these children of Shimon and Reuben's daughter, that child has a conversation with the child of Levi's son with Reuben's other daughter, with the child of that union. And he has a conversation, and he basically says, "We're cousins, because Reuven's two daughters are sisters, and they're our parents." Well, interesting. I'm also a cousin because our fathers are first cousin once removed, and our mothers. What else is there? One more over here. I and your mother are. I and your mother. I and your mother are cousins. Yeah, he's cousins with this fellow's mother, because with this fellow's mother. Because his father's brother. Right. I'm cousins with your father, and I'm cousins with your mother. That's what he says. I'm cousins with your father and cousins with your mother. Okay. Okay, good. Now we have a new Mishnah. Those were 7 riddles. Yeah. Hagir in the sky. We change gears. Yeah. I don't know why it has to be water carriers. Hagirish in Iskairu Baneha Ima, if a woman that converts with her children, with her sons, those 2 sons that she has, if one of them is married and dies, the other one doesn't do Yibam or Chalitza. Even if the conversion of the first one, the older brother, was done while she was pregnant. That's called Hayrasai Shalei B'Kedusha. She conceived before the conversion, but she gave birth after the conversion. And the second one was born after the conversion. They still don't do Chalitza. They're not considered related, because the conception of one of them was before the conversion. And the same would apply to a maidservant that converted with her children, that was freed with her children, which means the conversion, basically. That they're not going to do Yibam or Chalitza, because those 2 children, although they're brothers biologically, but they're not brothers halachically. Okay. Bnei Yudan Amsa, the 2 boys of Yudan, that was a maidservant, name of a maidservant. Yeah. I think all the cleaning ladies still have like the same name or something, Maria or something. Back then, apparently it could have been Yudan. I don't know. So, Ishtachar, they were freed. They were freed. They're not servants anymore, not slaves. Surely Ravacha Bar Yaakov Lemintzin Nashida Dadi. Ravacha Bar Yaakov allowed these 2 children to switch wives. They divorced each other's wives and they married their brother's wives. They just switched wives. That doesn't sound like a positive
Can you,
positive thing.
can you do that even among Jews? Marry your brother's wives?
No,
Yeah.
unless it's one of them passed away without the children, then you can do yibam, but it's going to be impossible to switch wives. That would be impossible. Amalei Rava tells to Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, Rav Sheshes Asar. Rav Sheshes doesn't allow that. Amalei, who Asar Vanasharina? So what? He doesn't allow it. I do allow it. Okay. Now the Gemara is going to explain what the machlekes is. Mina avalei mina aim. Let's say these two brothers were paternal brothers. Kuli amalei pligi deshari. Everyone would agree that it would be permissible for them to marry each other's wives. Divorced, even though they're brothers and the sister-in-law is prohibited, but they're not really related because they come from the father, and the father wasn't Jewish. They weren't Jewish. They just converted now, right? They just converted now, so it's not even viewed as real brothers. And there's two ways of looking at this. One way is, I don't really know if that's the father. They weren't Jewish. We don't know what goes on in those houses. They think it's the same father. There's another way of looking at it, is that the father doesn't count in those marriages. Not because we don't know. We'll see later from Rava is going to pick one of these options. But the father doesn't count.
Because when you convert, there's no family connections.
When you convert, there's no family connections, but there's also, what about the rabbinic way of, the rabbis prohibit that someone that converts, even though there's no family connection, the rabbis forbid them from marrying close relatives. There's two reasons for that. One reason is because other Jewish people may say that that's permissible. And another reason is because we don't want the convert to say, I used to be more frum before I converted, and now I became not religious and I can marry I can marry my sister. I went from a more holy state to a less holy state by becoming Jewish. We don't want those comments. So they made it forbidden, but biblically that would be permissible. So the first thing here is that everyone agree that that's permissible. If it's maternal brothers, everyone would agree that it's prohibited. Okay, that's a strict view here. You follow? It gets better. It gets more lenient when it's both mother and father. Why? Man Deshari, which is Rav Acha Bar Yaakov that allows this, Basar Abba Shadinan. We say, well, they're brothers because of the father. We ignore that there's the same mother here. The Bnei Planya Karala, because everyone calls them the sons of so-and-so, of John. They don't say the son of Maria. They say it's the sons of John. And that's not considered a relative when they're not Jewish. So we're going to say that they can marry each other, even though they do share the same mother, but people don't refer to the mother as being the relating factor. Rav Sheshes, he says, Karlo Nami B'nei Plainas. They're also called the sons of Maria. So that's an example, of course. So people will say that, oh, you can marry close relatives. You're allowed to marry your brother's wife. We don't want people to say that or to think that. Ikadamar, some say that Rav Acha Bar Yaakov is even lenient if they're brothers from the mother. My timer, what's the reason? There is no relation. There's no relationship between them. They're absolutely brand new people. Okay. Tanan, let's take a look at our Mishnah. Try to bring a support for one of these views. Can two brothers marry each other's wives after they both convert? What's the reason why they're not allowed to do Yivam or Chalitza? Because they're prohibited to marry each other's wives. Says like, that's not the reason. They don't have the laws of, it's exactly the opposite. They're not even related that they should even have the law of the levirate marriage. They're not brothers. Biologically, they're brothers, but halachically, they can marry anyone, and they can even marry the brother. It's just they don't have the halachas of Yibam Chalitza, but they can actually get married, and it's not Yibam. So the brother marries his sister-in-law. Yeah, biological brother-in-law, and it's not Yibam. Gemara says, well, you're stretching it because Aktani Afilu. The case in the Mishnah says that even if the conception was done before the conversion, the conception was before the conversion, and the birth was after the conversion, it's nevertheless would be the same rule. If you say that they're prohibited to marry each other, that's why it says, even though the conception was before the conversion. You would say that they're really related now because the birth was afterwards. Even well, you would say it's the opposite. Even though you would say that because the conception was before, it's considered like they're not related. Even though the birth just 1 second. Let me try this again. We have machlekes Rav Sheshes and Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. If two brothers that converted can marry each other's wives. Okay, so we quote the Mishnah that says that they don't do Yibam or Chalitza. Question is, why don't they do Yibam or Chalitza? One option is because
They're considered newborns in a way.
they're prohibited.
Converted.
Yeah, so they are considered newborns. The question is, is it prohibited for them to marry each other's wives? Is the problem of Yibam a prohibition on marrying the wife, or is it just there's no prohibition? It's actually permitted. It's just that we don't say that they have to, because there is no Yibam. There's no Yibam. But the question is, does that mean that they're then prohibited, or does that mean that they're then permitted? So it says like this, even if Hayrasai Shal Rishon was Shalei B'Kedusha, even if the first one was conceived before the conversion. So if we say that it's prohibited for them to marry, that's what it means, afilu. That even the afal gav the Rishon Shalei B'Kedusha V'las B'Kedusha V'Shein V'las B'Kedusha K'sei Ma'istami, even though they're really not related, because the conception was before the conversion, afilu hachi asiri, nevertheless it's prohibited. That's what it means, even though. But if we say that it is permitted, maya filu, then what are you telling me, even that the conception was before the conversion? That's the reason why it is permitted. It's not even though. If the conception wasn't before the conversion, then there would be a problem. Why would they be permitted? Because the conception was before the conversion. The Gemara answers, it's coming to tell me, not even though the conception was before the conversion, it's coming to tell me even though the birth was after the conversion, they're still permitted. The even is on the other way. Even though the birth was after the conversion, they're still permitted. It's a big chiddush. That this child is considered a ger. Even though the birth was after, the conversion was done in utero, he's still considered a convert.
And
It's a
usually
chiddush.
that's not the case.
We would have said it the other way. We would have said that no. I mean, there's two ways of looking at this. We had before, what about the bris? Is the bris a bris of a convert, or is the bris a bris of a Jewish person? According to this, it would be a bris of a convert. There's a problem with that, because the bris comes before the tefillah. So we have a Gemara that says that the bris can't be before the tefillah. First tefillah and then milah. There was a machlekes. But according to this, that there's a conversion that's taken, that he's not just born a Jew. He's a convert. A convert that wasn't circumcised. Then the bris comes out that it's first of all, it's another problem. He's born a convert. And then the bris is a bris of a convert. There's another problem, is that the convert doesn't get a bris on the 8th day. The convert should get a bris right away, right on the day of the, like a slave that's freed, you give him a bris right away. You don't have to wait. Okay, those are just questions. Now, Ikadarmi, there are those that say this differently. Hachinam mistabra, it's also logical, they say it exactly the opposite, rather. Hachinam mistabra disharu. Obviously, it's permissible for them to get married. Diktani afilu, because it says even. If you say that it's permissible, if it's saying that they're allowed to marry, he's allowed to marry his sister-in-law, even though he was born after the conversion, and his brother was born after the conversion, they're still allowed to marry. That's why it says even. But if it's prohibited, Maya filo, then what are you telling me, Afilo? The Gemara says, look at it the other way. The Alphagav, the Rishon, Rasi Shalei Bektusha, Veledasa Bektusha, Vasheni Rasi Veledasa Bektusha, Shtei Maistam, Efilach Asir, even though it's looked like they have two different mothers, because this one was conceived when the mother wasn't Jewish, and this one was conceived afterwards. Nevertheless, it's still prohibited. Yeah. This one, the mother was Maria, and this one the mother is Chaimushka.
Are these potential complications the reason for the opinion that the child born under these circumstances, whether it's converted or utero, should later accompany
I don't know. I didn't know that they have to do that. Do they have to have a conversion? Yeah, there is a Nimuki Yosef or something. There's a Nimuki Yosef that says that they have to go to the mikveh after the bris. I forget where it was, but it was Nimuki Yosef that said that. Yeah, he quoted an opinion. I think he argued on that opinion. It's him and a Ramban. Yeah, I remember where it was on the page. I don't remember where. I don't know. We don't do a tefillah afterwards. I think it was on the earlier Gemara. It was on the Gemara on Mem Dalet. So okay. Okay. Tashma. Come and listen. Shnei achim tu'umim. Two brothers that are twins. If they're twins, and obviously they have the same father and the same mother, you can't do this any other way. You can get a twin from a different father. Right? It's impossible. It is possible.
Cases where two children at the same time, different fathers.
Oh, really?
She was playing around,
And she's
became pregnant the same day.
so it's two
How would you call that?
two embryos. Two.
It's a mixed marriage.
Uh-huh. Anyway, okay, we're assuming here that it's the same. Shnei achim tu'umim geirim. L'chein meshachrorim, leicholtzim le'miyam, they can't do yibum or chalitza. Bein chayavim misham eishasach. But there's also no prohibition of eishasach, of the brother's wife. I say Russian shlei b'kedusha v'lei dasan b'kedusha. Let's say she converts while they're in utero. And so they're born b'kedusha. Leicholtzim le'miyam, you also don't do yibum or chalitza. In that case, chayavim misham eishasach. But in that case, there is the prohibition of eishasach. There's no chiddush there. If they were born after the conversion, the mother's a convert, but they're regular Jewish brothers. Nevertheless, we taught, we go back to look at one of the things we said. You see, there is no chiyav of eishasach. Rav Acha's right. They can marry the brother's wife. Gemara says chiyuv aleka hayisure ikka. Rav Acha's wrong. There's a prohibition. It only says that they're not chayiv. They're not chayiv kares, but there's still a rabbinic prohibition. So it sounds like Rav Sheshes is right. So suadin dafil yisur nami leka. Really, there's no prohibition either. But Rav Acha's right. Because there's a case in the Sefer where it says that if they are Hirasan Shalei B'Kedusha, Leidasim B'Kedusha, that there is the Isser of Eishasach, that they're Chayav because of Eishasach. So the first one says that they're not Chayav. Really wanted to say that there's no Isser at all. But because to keep the Mishnah, the halachas of the Mishnah symmetrical, it says that they're not chayiv. Yes, chayiv, not chayiv. But it could have said even more than not chayiv. It could have even said that it's permissible. Amar Rava. Rava says, Hadam Rabbanan ein av l'mitzri. This that the rabbi said that when it comes to non-Jewish lineage, we say that you don't follow the father. Leitem mishum d'shtufi bezima. It's not because they have so much immorality that we don't know who the father is. Aval yediyah. Even if we do know. Aval yediyah cheshinan. But if we would know for sure, then we should suspect to the father. Now that would mean, how would we know for sure? DNA test, or maybe these people were in a prison together, and there was no other man around. Then we know who the father is. But even if we do know, they were in the prison cell together. There's no other man. Why? Because when we have twins, even by twins, we say that there is no yibum or chalitza. Why? Because they're not brothers. What's the explanation? Because the father doesn't count. The Torah makes hefker, makes ownerless the seed. The ksiv besar chamayrim besarim. The flesh of donkeys is their flesh. V'zir masusim zirmasam. And the seed of horses is their seed. It means we're not counting. We're not considering the father's conception, the father's input, anything. Yeah, anti-Semites don't like this. So look at what the Talmud says about the non-Jews. Okay.
Does this refer back to a woman who has relations with two men and is carrying two children from different fathers?
No, it's talking about if she has relations with one father,
Oh,
with one man,
and has two.
and there's and then she has twins. We don't consider them brothers from the father,
Brothers. Oh, yeah.
even though they're twins. So,
Because he was. Okay.
and
But
because he
she-
wasn't Jewish, and then
but
what happened is
oh,
she wasn't Jewish
Jewish
either, but she
either.
converted.
Right.
So she converts with them in utero. So when they convert, they're not related
To each other.
to each other, and
I mean, a brother's a brother, no?
Came from the same mother.
Twin's a twin brother.
yeah, what's going on over here? Are they kikut and shenoila dummy? If they're considered kikut and shenoila dummy, then why do I care about the father anyway? They're not related to the mother, not related to the father, not related to anyone. And if they're not kikut and shenoila dummy,
Have the same father.
Very strict.
Is what does the word patrilineage mean?
and it comes from the father's family.
Well,
Yeah. What do you think is going on? Why does the father's obviously the mother is converting with them, so they're not related anyway because they're converts. Unless maybe over here the Gemara is saying that we don't consider them converts if they're born. Maybe the Gemara is switching that whole thing.
Next paragraph, it
that
says
might make sense.
the seed is not considered the seed.
Right.
Donkey, so it doesn't matter that where it comes from. It doesn't matter who the carrier is, if the mother is, they're twin brothers. But by the mother, she's converted, but the seed comes from donkeys, so they're not really brothers.
I know, but aren't they brothers from the mother?
Well, they come from
Oh.
the same, she's a carrier.
Oh,
but
so we said about the mother that the mother's family would be a rabbinic prohibition, according to Rav Sheshis, but not according to Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. So there would be a rabbinic prohibition. But the father's family would be a problem. If it's the same father, then we had two opinions here, how it would work. Does everyone agree that it's a problem? No, if it's the same father, then everyone agreed that it was fine. If it's the same mother, then it was a problem. So here it's the same mother. So it must be we're going the other way. We're going with the other opinion. That everyone agrees that it's that Rav Acha Bar Yaakov would allow it if it's the same mother. And Rav Sheshis doesn't allow it. And he allows it even if it's the same father and the same mother. So how do we have a proof over here? If we don't follow the father, they converted, they're cut in Shenoilad. Rashi says that we don't say kekatan shenoila dami if leidasi biktusha. That's the answer. We switched the whole thing.
What?
Before we were saying that if a child, the conception is before the conversion, and the birth is after the conversion,
Right.
they were saying that they're considered a convert.
Right.
Now we're saying that if the conception was before the conversion and the birth is after the conversion, that we don't say Kekat and Shnei Ladami. We don't say that they're not related. Well, we say that they are related. Now the only issue is what type of brothers do Yibam? Not brothers from the mother, but brothers from the father do Yibam. Now the mother, we know that it's the same mother, that we know the birth. The father, well, not necessarily do we know. So maybe that's why we don't consider them related, because we not necessarily do we know. So Rava says, even if we know 100%, they're still not brothers from the father. Because the father's seed is like owner. Yeah. Okay. So we switch that piece. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. But if you don't switch that cut and shenayla dummy, the status of a conversion in utero switched in the Gemara in between the beginning of the Gemara and right here. Tashema, come and listen. Damar Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says, "Ma'aseh b'niftayim ager." Is that a name in Greek? Do they have like a Greek name there? Do they say anything about this name? Niftayim. Does he say, oh, we know this name? Okay. There was a convert. He married his brother's wife, but it was only his half brother. The story came to the sages. There's no marriage for a convert. What does that mean? What are you saying? If a ger gets married, there's no kedusha in there. It didn't mean no marriage. It meant there's no prohibition on the brother's wife for a convert. My love to nasvach shuger. Are we talking about where the brother lived with the wife after he converted, and you're saying that it's still not considered related to him? Lie, the Gemara says. The nasvach shuavid kechavim. It was his brother's wife before he converted, not after he converted. That's not considered related. Of course they're not related. Maybe we should make a gezerah that if after he converts it's a problem. So before he converts it's also a problem. Kamash Malana, we don't make that gezerah. Tashema, Damar ben Yassian. I have an incredible new list of new names here. People I never heard. Niftayim. Who was the other one? We had Yuda Namsa.
Yeah, this one.
Oh, Jason.
Really?
Okay. Son of Jason.
Really? Is he a biblical name? Is he in the Tanakh? He wasn't in the Tanakh, was he?
I don't know if that in the Tanakh. He says, when I went to the islands, I found over there a convert that married his sister-in-law, his brother's wife, but it was only his brother, maternal brother. Martilai, I said to him, Bini, mi hershach, who permitted this? Okay, have a safe flight. Hopefully we'll get to the Mishnah on Amid base. I hope. Okay.
Okay, I'll take that. Thank you.
Okay. Amali, so he said to me, look, there's a woman over here with 7 sons. On this chair, on this bench, Rabbi Akiva sat and he said 2 things. A ger can marry his sister-in-law if it's only his brother's wife because it's his maternal brother. And he also said, the word of God came to Yoina the second time saying, that the Shechina only spoke to Yoina. Yoina had a prophecy only twice, not 3 times. Nevertheless, it was taught, sounds like he married his brother when he converted. After he married his brother's wife. After, in other words, it was the brother's wife, even after the brother converted. Was married before. Not after the conversion, he never lived with her. So Maila Maimer, so what's the Chiddush? Well, that we don't say that. Okay. Do we believe a person that married his sister-in-law to then tell me that he heard from a rabbi, in this case Rabbi Akiva, that it's permissible? Talmud Chacham that is teaching a halacha. If he said the halacha before it happened, then you listen to him. However, but if he already acted on it, and then he's telling us the halacha that we never heard, we say maybe he's making it up. You don't trust him then. It's after the fact. So it must have been that he was teaching this halacha even before he married this woman, which is his sister-in-law. Maybe we can say that the raya that he brought was from a woman and her 7 sons that had already married the sister-in-law from previously. It was a previous story that Rabbi Akiva had permitted. Or maybe from the fact that he had 2 teachings from Rabbi Akiva, one of them is not relevant to our case. One of them is just about Yaina. But nevertheless, that tells me that if we're trusting him for one, we'll trust him for the other one. He sort of like gets the other one slipped in because he's telling us one other halacha together with this. Amar Mar. Okay. What are we holding in our status over here about marrying the sister-in-law? Sounds like it was allowed, but the only thing is we weren't sure if that was after they were married or not. If that was after the conversion, if they were married after the conversion, we didn't have a conclusion on that. Okay. Amar Mar, it says the master taught, that's going back to that brisa that says that what Ben Yassian taught us from Rabbi Akiva. It says V'yidvar Hashem al Yein Shenis Leimer Shenis Dimrei Mishchina Shlishis Lei Dimrei Mai. The Shechina only spoke to Yaina twice, not a third time. Where's this? This is talking about Yeravam ben Yayash, that he returned the boundaries of Israel as Hashem had prophesied through his servant Yaina ben Amitai. Apparently, there was another prophecy from Yaina ben Amitai about Yeravam. This wasn't Yeravam ben Nabat. This is Yeravam ben Yayash, a later king. So Amar Ravina, there's a question because we said it was only 2 prophecies. Now we have a third one. Al Iski Ninveh Kamar. There were 2 prophecies regarding Ninveh, but there were other prophecies that Yaina had. Rav Nachman ben Yitzchak Amar Hachi Kamar. Kedvar Hashem Shadiv Biyadav De Anavi Kshem Shnepach and Ninveh Miral Teva Kach Yeravam ben Yayash Nepach Lem Yisrael Miral Teva. As Hashem had prophesied to Yaina ben Amitai regarding Ninveh, that it was going to go from a bad state to a good state, so too Yeravam ben Yayash also, things turned from bad to good during his days. So it was still the original 2 prophecies. Toshima. A convert that his mother converts while she's pregnant with him. He only has his mother's relatives, but not his father's relatives. Ketzad. How is this? If he marries his mother's sister, he has to divorce her. Not his mother's sister. His sister from his mother. That means they share the same mother. He has to divorce her. But if they share the same father, he marries his sister from paternal sister. Yikayim could stay married to her. His aunt. How is it his aunt? It's his father's sister. I'm sorry. It's his father. Yeah, it's his father's sister, but it's from. but it's from, how is it the sister? It's from the mother. So anything that's maternal is a problem, but paternal is not a problem. Well, here it's the father's sister, so it's paternal, so it's not a problem. I think we're talking about that they're not Jewish, right?
For him, converted.
Yeah. What we're doing here is we're doing comparisons of relatives of before the conversion to if would that be prohibited after the conversion, and if that would be the case, then we want to stop it. So we're saying relatives of the father we don't have to be concerned about because everyone knows that that's not a relative for non-Jews, but that's not considered relatives. But relatives of the mother is a concern, so that we need to stop. So this is a relative of the father, and nevertheless, Yaitzi, he has to divorce her. It's his father's sister, but Minaav Yekayim, but from the father he can keep her. It's his aunt because it's his father's sister. If it's the mother's sister from the mother, then it's for sure he has to divorce her. But Minaav, but if it's the mother's sister from the father, paternal sister, then it's a machlekes. It's very interesting. The problem with the father's sister, even though the father's not a relative, is that the father's sister, the aunt, is comparable to the mother's sister. And that's a special gezerah of fathers of this aunt for that aunt. It's funny that we don't make that decree paternal to maternal. We're saying paternal is always permissible and maternal is always not. And then when it comes to the aunt, we say, well, what this aunt is confused with that aunt. It's interesting. The Chacham say that because there is a father involved, there's a man involved, it is his mother's sister. But because it's the mother's sister from the paternal sister, so that's acceptable. Reb Meir would say, anyone that's related through the mother, then it's a problem. If it's through the father, then it's acceptable. He's allowed to marry his brother's wife from the mother. So how's he allowed to do that? This is she'er ha'aim. The answer is, Rashi says that if it would have been his sister from the mother, that would be a problem. But because it's through marriage, that takes it a step down and makes it permissible. It's not the biological relative. It's his brother's wife, which is acceptable.
So is this generally talking about different relationships that would be exceptions to the rule from the original 15 prohibition?
Yeah, but the reason is because all of this is rabbinic, because they're converts. And then the wife of the uncle, which is also his father's brother's wife, which is his aunt. He's allowed to marry any other ones, which is including his father's wife. He can marry, obviously. She converts and whatever. Nasa Ishobita, let's say he's married to a woman and her daughter. He married them before he converted. And then he converts and they're still there. They convert with him. So he can only remain married to one of them. He has to divorce the other one. L'chatchila, he should not marry. Now, this is problematic. He just said we have to divorce one of them. Of course, he can't marry. We'll see in a moment. If his wife dies, he can marry her mother. Now, we're talking about that the wife converts and the mother converts, and then he can marry them. He can marry the mother-in-law if the wife dies. Now, if it would be a Jewish, then it's a machlekes. We said that there's a prohibition on the mother-in-law, even if the wife dies, even according to Rabbi Akiva, that allowed it, that seemed to allow it, but there was still a prohibition. He just said that you don't have the same punishment.
These prohibited relations, are they, do they apply to Goyim at all? Or?
Goyim themselves, yes. But when they convert, then it falls, the relationship falls off. They're not really related anymore because they're considered children, brand new. They restart.
So that would be in the
Born again.
Noahide laws, or not necessarily? Or?
And then once they convert, then it goes under the Jewish laws. Before they were Jewish, it would go under the 7 Noahide laws.
Oh, is that right? So
Yeah.
it's
Now they convert, they go under the Torah laws.
okay. So if let's say a man marries his mother or something, could a goy do that? No.
No, so let's say a mother and son convert. So according to the Torah, he would be allowed to marry her. The rabbi said that he can't because it's comparable to what Jewish people would be prohibited to do.
But however, if they got married before they converted,
They have to
then
separate. They still have to separate.
Oh,
There's those that say he can't marry his mother-in-law. We said that he's allowed to marry his sister-in-law. Obviously, it must be that the brother married her after he converted. So why is it permissible? Because it's not his brother. Because it's Katan Shenailadam. It's a Kasha on Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes said before that he's not allowed to marry his sister-in-law. He married when he was not Jewish. So of course he's allowed to marry her. And maybe I would make that decree that the Gemara told us already 3 times, Kamash Malan, that we don't make that decree and he's allowed to marry her, even though his brother was married to her before she converted, you know, in the old... Okay. Amar Mar, the master taught, Nasa Ishu Bita Kainas Achas Maiti Achas. Lachatchila Yechnes. If a man marries a woman and her daughter, he can, and then they convert, he can only stay married to one of them, and the other one he can't marry, other one he has to divorce, and Lachatchila he shouldn't marry. The Gemara says, Hashtafuki Meifak Lachatchila Mibai. If he has to divorce her, of course he's not allowed to marry her. Hasam Kai. Gemara says, we're not talking about this case. Lachatchila Loi Yechnais was talking about Hachikamar. When the rabbi said that you're allowed to stay married to her, that means who is allowed to stay married to? That was in certain cases. If it was his mother's, his aunt, from the mother, from the father, there were certain cases we allowed them to stay married. So that's because they were married already. But l'chatchila shouldn't marry them. If his wife dies, he's allowed to marry his mother-in-law. There are those that taught that he's not allowed to. One view, one brisa was following Rabbi Shmuel, the other brisa was following Rabbi Akiva. Mandi Yasar, the one that said he's prohibited for his mother-in-law, Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel held that after his wife passes away, it's the same prohibition of the mother-in-law. It doesn't go down any at all. The Gabi Ger goes Rabbi Rabbanan, and so therefore there's a prohibition on the convert as well. Man the Rabbi Akiva, the one that allows it follows Rabbi Akiva. The prohibition goes down. It's not considered streifa. You don't go under the category of death penalty of being burnt. The Gabi Ger goes Rabbi Rabbanan, because the prohibition goes down, so they didn't make that decree when it comes to a ger. Okay, let's leave it over here.
wow. Thank you so much.
Shva tov, everyone.